And this should not be a partisan issue. This is an issue, as I said, where you've got a sizable portion of the American people squarely behind the notion that folks who are willing to serve on our behalf should be treated fairly and equally.
President Obama addressing America's ban on gay people serving in our military at last week's post-election press conference. And the president's right. The ban is wildly unpopular, with 70% of Americans overall saying they are opposed, with majorities of liberals, of Democrats, of Republicans, and even self-defined conservatives all saying they are against the ban. One guy likes it, though. The new commandant of the Marine Corps, General James F. Amos, channeling Sam Nunn's creepy submarine fantasies from the early 90s, telling reporters this weekend that he doesn't want the gay ban repealed because, quote, there is nothing more intimate than young men and young women, and when you talk of infantry, we're talking our young men, laying out, sleeping alongside of one another, and sharing death, fear, and loss of brothers. See, gay people totally can't do that. No such thing as a gay Marine, except for all the gay ones. What's interesting here is the reaction to the commandant's remarks. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff telling reporters, quote, I was surprised by what he said and surprised that he said it publicly. The top Marine is brand new on the job, about 2 weeks, and he and the other service chiefs had all agreed to review the Pentagon's internal study of the issue and make their recommendations on the policy up the chain of command and in private. As in, not to a bunch of reporters, like the new Marine commandant did this weekend. Meanwhile, the defense secretary reiterated to reporters today, quote, I would like to see the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but he said, I'm not sure what the prospects for that are, and we'll just have to see. We are, in fact, trying to see what those prospects are, which is why we've called in Ken Stickland, NBC's Senate producer. Ken, thanks very much for being here. It's good to have you on the show.
Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
So the House has already passed the defense authorization bill with the provision that essentially lets the military repeal it. Do we know yet if the Senate's going to try to vote on that in the lame duck session?
We don't know for sure, but I can tell you that Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, strongly supports repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He has the power to bring it to the floor and try to do it. They tried it again. They tried it in September. They didn't work. They're about 4 votes short. But if the Democrats hold together, they have 59 votes. You know it takes 60 votes to get anything done in the Senate. However, there is one catch. When the Senate convenes in December, the Democrats will be short 1 vote. Mark Curt, who holds Obama's seat, because if it was a special election, he'll start in November. He'll be sworn in late November, so that then the Democrats will be down 1 more seat. The president can't do it without at least 1 Republican. They're going to need 60 votes to get this bill on the floor. Without that 60 vote, it goes nowhere.
There have been reports today that Senator Carl Levin, who's the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator John McCain, the ranking Republican, that they were working on trying to strip the repeal out of the defense authorization bill. What's the latest on that?
Carl Levin and John McCain are talking. These are the ranking and chairman of the Armed Services Committee. They really want to pass to some degree, some part of the defense authorization bill. This bill is so big, so massive, touches so many parts of the military. They have passed it for the past 48 consecutive years, but they know they can't pass it without having controversial provisions in it, like the ones that McCain feel, Don't Ask, Don't Tell. There was also the DREAM Act, which is a small immigration provision. So unless those things are stripped out, it's hard to find a path forward. And certainly without any Republican support, it goes nowhere.
Now, the White House tonight stated quite emphatically that whether or not John McCain and Carl Levin are talking about this, the White House is against stripping Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal out of the Senate bill. What kind of weight does that carry with the Senate and with the Senate Armed Services Committee?
I think it carries some weight for Senate Democrats. The last time they tried to pass it, 2 Senate Democrats, Blanche Lincoln and her colleague Mark Pryor of Arkansas, voted against bringing the bill to the floor. Blanche Lincoln lost. It's reasonable to believe that maybe in these last days she would go along with Democrats. The president could help make that happen, but still, they need at least 1 Republican. Susan Collins on the Armed Services Committee, a Republican from Maine, supports the provision of repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but did not support bringing it to the floor last time because she didn't like the procedure that Harry Reid was going to use by limiting debate. If Harry Reid can find a way to bring Susan Collins on board, get 1 more Republican and get to that 60, that's how. But this is a lame duck session. They call it lame for a reason, because they get very little done during this period. So the path forward, there is one, but it's hard to see how that happens. Many hurdles, both procedural, political, and of course, they need some bipartisanship.
NBC News Senate producer Ken Stickland, our man on Capitol Hill, about which we are very lucky. Thanks a lot, Ken. Appreciate it.
No problem.